Hello everyone, today we're taking a look at the new version, V2, of the GepRC Cinelog 35. It's got the ever popular DJI O3 air unit, the flight controller right in there, which is accessible without removing anything or needing any sort of angle adapter, is the Gep F722. It's a 45 amp all-in-one. They note that it is the V2. It should have the ICM 42688P gyro, if that's important to you. It's interesting, the motors are noted as SpeedX X. There it is, I finally found it. SpeedX X GepRC 2105.5 2150 kV. So that means 6S. And on those motors is the HQ DT90 millimeter prop. And it's a tri-blade. You can also get it, I think it's almost all versions except for one includes GPS. Right down here is our USB port, so we can activate and get data off of our air unit, your video recordings. The SD card is also available if you can see it right down there, but that might take a pair of tweezers to get at it. But for binding, I removed this because I've already broken one bind button on an O3 air unit and I don't want to break a second one. So I went ahead and took the 4 screws out, lowered the entire thing so I could press the button cleanly to link it to my goggles. It's got a vibration dampened independent FPV camera plate as well as an external HD camera plate that's pretty firm still. This is much softer. They've redesigned the prop guards a little bit. Some of the theory is flight characteristics should be better as well as a little less noisy, although I can't hardly tell the difference from one of these to the next. So if you want to know which one's less noisy or more noisy, I'll have to ask you just to watch all the vids that I have on the channel because I record flight audio for all of them. You can see here because I did the reviewer special and stuck my receiver right out here on the arm. I don't suggest that, but I used a little cube receiver and with a big 6S battery up here, I think that'll be safe. Well, it already was safe. It does come with the mount that you see up here as well as another mount just like this. We get an extra battery strap, which is a different length than the one I use. This one's shorter. Extra set of props, antenna tubes, an extra battery mat, which I should note, the battery mat doesn't come on the quad. You need to place that yourself, and it is rubber and texturized, so I approve. We get some plastic tweezers. Probably need to use this for your SD card, as well as if you're going to try to press the binding button without taking the air unit down out of its enclosure. We do get a micro USB cable, a GepRC keychain. We get hex, 3 different hex tools. It also comes with various lengths of screws and nuts, things you need for short-term repairs, long-term repairs. You get extra little vibration dampening as well. So, got everything covered. We also get a wrench. We also get this information sheet on the GepRC F722 all-in-one, which lines out all of our different connections. Because it's the O3 air unit, we get this little information sheet as well. And we get a quick start guide, which covers some of the basic initial procedures, like binding to your, it says bind to Vista, but in this case it's O3, but you can get it with Vista, I see on their website, as well as binding for the TBS Crossfire or binding FR Sky, checking the arms and the modes, the battery pad installation, the landing pad installation, which, no, this one doesn't have that, so that's for a different model. Talks a little bit about props, and it also has content kink information. Little typo there. We also get some additional contact information, whether it be for support or downloads or social media. And you know what it came with last? 2 sheets of stickers. As I was packing up, I just about forgot. It also comes with the screw and the nut that you need to mount an external HD camera. Without an external HD camera, just ready to fly, it weighs 309 grams, well, 309.5 grams. I did fly it with a naked GoPro, obviously it's from Flywoo, as well as the little adapter for battery, as well as the screw. And with all that, we're at 365, almost 366 grams. I flew it on this Tattoo R line. This is a 1050 capacity, or mAh, milliamp, 6S battery, as well as this full send 850 milliamp 6S battery. Faster flight, I use this battery. And because my scale doesn't go that high, we're just going to weigh the battery separate. The 850 milliamp 6S battery weighs 142 grams. The Tattoo 1050 weighs just about 178 grams. So you need to do some math, but you're way over 250, so really doesn't matter. All right, here at the very beginning, please note I do have a touch of wind. So that's going to be important because, well, if there is anything, any shimmering or something like that, you need to know that there's wind that is playing some role in that. I think the video looks very, very smooth. Of course, RockySteady is on, so keep that in mind. I can show you some of the GoPro footage. We're going to look at a sample of this because the smooth flying, I don't know how much of that we actually need to see, and I feel like I have this discussion with you all, and I don't get any feedback. No one says, you know, a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. I need to see it all. Actually, I've never had anyone say I need to see all of the slow flight. And when I do that, I do it in a picture back at the desk, more discussing other features about the quad. So the main things that I like to cover when I'm doing the slower flight is descents, because that's something I've noticed that some of these Cinewhoops don't do very well, or they have a hard time compensating for the descent. So you'll get some motor noise that might be a little bit odd. From time to time, I've seen some of them with less than smooth video when they descend. So I try to do that a couple different ways in the slow flight, and I think that's probably the most important to see. And then there's obviously the sound, and I get on every one of these Cinewhoop sort of videos, someone asked me which one's more quiet. I don't know. I can't tell you. The number 2 question is, can it carry a GoPro? Yes. The larger prop you have, the better it's going to handle the heavier load that you are putting on it. The load being an external HD camera. In this flight, I am flying it with my naked GoPro. And there's a squirrel. So those are the 2 most popular questions. Can it lift a GoPro, and how loud is it? Just listen to the video, compare it to others that I have here on the channel, or if you've heard them in other channels, that's fine as well. But being definitive, I can't tell you which one's louder, and quite honestly, you get spaced out between flying these things, because I don't fly one and then the next day I fly a different one that's a Cinewhoop. I'll tend to rotate my flights, and then I fly casually for stuff that I just never bring to the channel, some of my favorite quads. So that's one of the reasons why in my head, and I can't necessarily tell you which one's louder and which one's more quiet. I think it's easier for you to discern that, and especially because it's important to you. That's why you're asking, and I've gone on much too long about that. It's warming up though. I'm excited about that. We hit 82 today. It wasn't in this video, but we hit 82 today in real life. In this video, the temperature was actually 71. So a really nice day, as well as just having a touch of wind at 12 miles an hour. And the wind comes and goes, and we're not feeling the full effect at any time. We have houses, trees, whatnot. But I thought this flies pretty dang smooth. And of course, with the 3.5 or the 3.5 inch or 90 millimeter prop size, you're not going to really fly this inside a home. If you're going to try to do some sort of cinematic footage, you want it to be in a very large, very open sort of space. Everything has got to have big, wide doorways, commercial, industrial, that sort of stuff. Flying this inside a house, while you might be able to do it because you have the skill set, it's probably not something we're going to do too commonly, unless this is the only tool you have in your tool belt in order to get that shot that you need to for inside of someone else's home. In typical GepRC fashion, they include a lot of accessories, which I tend to appreciate because I haven't ever gotten a GepRC quad and then needed to make changes using my own parts. They've always had parts, whether it's mounting your GoPro mount or something else, maybe you lose a screw of some sort, they've always got spares, so I can always go right to the box and not have to go scurrying through my little bubblegum canister. Okay, we've watched, 3.5 minutes of this video. That again is on that Tattoo R line. It's the 1050 milliamp battery, and it does go on for 6 minutes and 30 seconds. It's a full 6 minutes and 30 seconds flying as you've seen here. Battery voltage comes back up above 3.6 volts, which I tend to shoot for 3.5. But this was the nicest day that I had to do this slow, cruisy sort of flight. I only spend a couple, 3 days actually flying the slow, cruisy flight, and then I like to crank up the camera angle and see what it can do going fast. So let's take a look at the GoPro footage, and then we'll take a look at the faster flight. All right, we're just going to hop right in. No flight audio on this segment. We've already been listening to it, and we'll get to listen to it more. This is my GoPro, naked GoPro from Flywoo that I'm flying aboard this. Just wanted to show you this. This does have, what is it? It's that flow that they GoPro got. I can't remember. Hyperflow? Jeez, it's escaping me in the moment. And I'll probably leave this in the video because I think it's funny when I can't come up with words. I hope you all enjoy getting a laugh when I can't come up with words or I butcher words, because I don't know. I like to have fun. I like to have fun on this channel. This channel is my hobby. It's not my job. It's not. I'm not trying to make this a career by any stretch. I just enjoy quads and have been enjoying quads for a long time. But I'll show you a little bit of this GoPro footage, proof of concept, if nothing else. All right, let's move into that faster flight. Okay, our wind's a little bit stronger on this day, so please take note of that. So it's a different day. 16 miles an hour. I shouldn't have told you to take note of something that I hadn't said yet. Sorry about that. So a little stronger wind. Gusts were getting up there into the upper teens. Probably reached into the 20s, although the weather app doesn't say that. And so this is one of the things that I like to do just to give anyone an idea. If you're not going to fly this around like a movie quad or a cinematic quad, that you want to just fly it normally, how does it handle doing tighter turns? How does it handle doing punches up over my house? How does it handle flips and rolls? I think I do that in this flight as well. But unfortunately, we've got that wobble at 0 throttle as I get up over the house and we're looking down. Yeah, we've seen that quite a bit. Of course, this flight style kind of goes against the design, or as the designers intended these things to be flown, but I still think it's important because from time to time, we see Cinewhoops that can handle this sort of flight, and that means that it's more versatile, in my opinion. Also notice my neighbor did some cleanup in the little, the cattail area. I don't know what those things are called. I'm not really into the plants or the flowers. I just like grass. You know, played baseball all my life, so grass and dirt was all I was really into. But that little corner down there where I do the punch over the house has been cleaned up. And actually I got home and he was pretty much done, and you know, we share that space, so we're really on the hook for doing a little bit of that cleanup ourselves. But Lamar's a really good guy, and went over and talked to him, kind of gave him the business for cleaning up our side too, and he's like, oh no, you know, I love to get out here and work with my hands when I'm home off the train. He works on the railroad. He's gone for not necessarily days at a time, but he'll be gone for 16 or so hours. I've noticed that he'll sometimes get home real late at night after he's been out on shift. But so good dude, solid neighbor. They all enjoy the fact that I have this fun hobby, and sometimes they come out and watch. And sometimes I'll shut down my flight because they've come out, and they're like, oh no, don't shut down. We enjoy watching it whiz around, and the dogs love it. My neighbors across the back fence, they're dogs. They have 2 dogs. They love to just run up and down the fence. Although I'm worried about that time I have a crash and pop on the wrong side of the fence and I get dog slobber all over, you know, a favorite quad or something like that. Anyways, I guess I haven't talked a lot about the neighbors recently, mainly because, you know, it hasn't been very nice out. So as neighbors, we haven't been getting together or talking much. And we actually happened to do a little bit of talking and gathering this weekend as the weather has gotten nicer. I should mention this again is on that full SIN battery. It's the 850 milliamp battery, and this flight goes 3 minutes and 50 seconds in total. No naked GoPro on top. So that was something else that I needed to make sure I made sure was illicit. I really didn't have any bad crashes. Like, I think in this flight there's a glancing blow, and you can barely tell. You might be able to hear it kind of nick one of the trees. But probably due to the fact that I by nature, I'm flying a little bit more cautiously than I might something that doesn't have the prop protection on it. I didn't have really any crashes that were really noteworthy or that I would need to bring to the video to show any durability or lack of durability. So that's something in this video that we really don't know. The prop protection feels solid. I have a fair high confidence that it will be way more solid than the Cinelog 35 originally was. Because I think the Cinelog 35, 25, they didn't make a 20 back then. This was like 2 years ago. That prop protection was very light, so it made the flight characteristics good, but it wasn't very robust as far as crashing into stuff. This will be much more substantial than the original versions that they made of these Cinelog quads. Of course, the Cinbot has got a different sort of prop protection entirely. Okay, the flight's finished up. That's the end of our flight again. That was 3 minutes and 50 seconds on an 850 milliamp 6S. I forgot to mention the GPS. Initially, I found that I got 5 satellites relatively quickly on the first, not the very first time I plugged in outside. I think it was like the second or third time that I went back outside. I actually kind of took note of how quickly it got GPS. I saw 5 satellites immediately, and I went ahead and took off because this is during the faster flights. They don't have this set up to where you have to get the minimum number of satellites before you can arm. Betaflight's not set up on this. But it's very important for our friends that might be coming from camera drones or you're interested in drones that just because this has GPS, it does not fly itself. It does not position hold. It does not hover in the air. This is more for recovery. So you go down over a mountainside, you lose video or control link, it goes into fail-safe mode, and then it tries to return itself to home, so to speak. So it's fail-safe, or you can use the data, the latitude and longitude data, if you have that on screen in your DVR, in order to go recover. But this does not fly itself just because it's GPS. It's more about recovery than it is about flight. One of the things whenever I have to get one of these quads and work on them, they're very compact, you know, where you're using an all-in-one board, which isn't unusual, but it's all protected inside this case. And I always kind of loathe working on these. This was sent to me as a plug-in fly, which it's made to run on, it's wired with the DJI O3 air unit. It's made to run with that new gray remote from DJI, which I don't have. So it had S-Bus connected to it. So I had to disable S-Bus by removing the wire from the connector. It does use a connector on both ends from the O3 air unit down to the board. So I had to remove that S-Bus wire and in order to get my receiver wired up, which is Express LRS. I also found that for whatever reason, UART 4 did not work with running my Express LRS receiver, so I had to move over to UART 2. I'm wondering if UART 4 may have been somewhat tied up by the air unit in some way, or it was a conflict on the board. I haven't investigated that enough to make any sort of solid information to you, but I did want to make sure I left that in the video for my experience, because I had it connected to UART 4 for a while, and I tried to figure out why it wasn't working. And then eventually I did figure it out, because the air unit's still new to me. I think this is the third one I've had, and this is the first time I've had to come across where S-Bus was causing a conflict for me. So keep that in mind. You may find yourself, when you first get it, you need to take this out in order to hit the link button, but the USB port is accessible, the SD card's accessible. They designed this little cutout right here just for our ability to get to those ports, which is good. I mean, it's smart design. They also have a little plastic shield. I don't know if you can see it. It's fairly well covered. And I don't know if I'm getting enough light. Just right in here, there's a plastic shield that goes between the flight controller, and they have a little gummy, and then your O3 air unit. So that's there. The nice thing about this build, I oftentimes talk about the fact that, you know, we have our battery lead is oftentimes just dangling out here. More so in micros. The larger quads, we have more options. But with this being in part of the frame. Speaking of the frame, I'll have to go back and measure this. I did not measure the thickness, did I? I'll do that yet. But with this being plugged in right here, we don't have to worry as much about having a battery ejection and pulling our battery lead off the all-in-one flight controller. You know, those things are $100 now, so the last thing you want is to pull that off. But that should not be an issue. You know, it's got some sort of injection molded plastic, and it's screwed down into this carbon fiber. That should be all fine. It is worth noting that this is 3D printed, and they did do, hopefully you can see it, they've got another little piece right down in here. Boy, my lighting isn't very good for this. There's another little piece right here that holds the GPS wires to, oh, there's a better shot of it. Jeez Louise. To keep the GPS wires out of harm's way. So that was smart. I didn't see any interference. The GPS seemed to work fine. I don't really use GPS very much, so you might need to take my GPS information with a grain of salt. I saw it had satellites. I didn't show it in the video because I didn't think it had anything very important. With this, your flight point in the slow flight, your throttle value is going to be around 36 or 37. So there's plenty of throttle left. In faster flight, of course, it varies quite a bit. I would say I was at 50% or maybe 58% a good portion of the time that was flat, faster flying. So let me measure this up. I forgot to measure the carbon fiber. Okay, I found a spot where I can get a hold of this. Beefy and thick. Let's see. Oh, shoot. Jeez Louise. Having a hard time. There we go. I would say that's at least 3.5. That's a full 3.5 millimeter carbon fiber thick. So that's good thick stuff. This plate up here is also, it's not nearly as thick, but I don't think this is going to be accurate because the angle I got here. Let me get out there. Looks like 2 millimeter on this camera plate right up here on the top. That was something else they tout about the durability of this frame, is that they've increased the thickness of the carbon fiber, and you can tell that they've put some sort of paper or dressing around the edges so we don't see the carbon fiber. It's nice and smooth. They use these little plastic sheaths to make sure the wires stay up out of the prop, so that should be fine. It's better than nothing. I prefer tape. I just think tape's more robust, but I think these look good. But in practice, I don't know, because I don't use these personally on any of my builds. But, you know, if you've found that these aren't reliable in some way, please let me know, because they always stay on for me, and I've never had a problem with really these coming off or being a problem of any other nature either. Oh, something else that I wanted to draw out, hopefully I can show it in camera. To adjust my camera angle, can you see that? See the screw? right up front. So in order to adjust my camera angle, I just had to adjust the screw on the bottom, and to get at it, I just pressed down on this platform a little bit, and then I can take a long screwdriver right through this prop protection all the way to that screw. I can't quite see it in the viewfinder. Hopefully you can see it, or you'll just have to trust me that you can get access to that screw in order to change your camera angle. Yeah, the DJI O3, the air unit, the RockySteady, that stuff's pretty impressive. With the image quality it gets, with the retransmissions and the ability to get good penetration through and around objects, although you're not supposed to fly beyond line of sight, follow the rules in your local area. It's pretty impressive, and the RockySteady does work well. At least I thought it worked well. I showed you that flight during a fairly windy day, so there had to have been some impact on the quad itself. So that really helps. But of course, this comes in different versions. So if you're not looking at the O3 air unit, which I find a bit surprising if you're not, because I hear constantly about people looking at Cinewhoops that are really only looking at the O3 air unit, and they're not even looking to run an external HD camera. If I'm wrong, please tell me. I need to get well rounded on this stuff and not just be swayed by one particular group. I need to have all the different groups keep me straight and informed. But so yeah, it's loud. Potentially not as loud as the old version or as others, but I can't say with any sort of certainty. Yes, it can carry a GoPro with the battery and everything right here in the mount. It'll be fine. It'll probably shorten your flight time by 30 seconds maybe. Maybe a little bit more depending upon the weight of the GoPro, whether it's an actual GoPro or if it's another DJI camera. And you've got the mounts that come with it. This is 6S, and it's 6S batteries are heavy, so when it comes to that 250 gram limit, you're not going to get under that with this particular quad. I probably should draw it out. We've got these Kevlar battery straps, which are always nice. I don't oftentimes get to use these on micros because they're a bit heavier than other battery straps. But they should be robust, especially when you're carrying a big heavy battery. Should be robust. They print that this is aluminum, and it's that 7075 aluminum, supposed to be somehow special. I didn't have any speakable crashes, so it should be fine. Of course, it goes in front to back. You're kind of protected from the battery going anywhere with your strap, and then this camera platform, and then as well as having your battery plugged in down there. If you do have a crash that's forward or backwards, the battery shouldn't eject, provided your battery strap does not break apart and allow it to. Yeah, it seems like a solid build. Seems like a Cinewhoop that, as far as I can tell, worked fine for me. The last point is to come down to the price point, and it's always shocking to me what these Cinewhoops and all of our quads are now costing, especially as we've gotten deeper and deeper into HD, and the prices have not come down. So it looks like the prices range on the Cinelog 35 V2. The lowest price I see is with the Wasp camera, so that would be the RunCam Link at somewhere between $389 and $444, depending upon what you choose. You can get the analog edition of this guy for somewhere between $269 and $324, but the most expensive one, which is the O3, and depending upon which receiver you get, comes in anywhere from $550 to $604. As always, if you want to take a look at the Cinelog 35 V2 and any resellers that might be selling it, I will have links down in the video description. If you know of a shop that is selling this and you would share that with me, I will link any shop that has this quad available, as is the case on any video that I make, whether it's affiliate or not. You should buy where you want to buy your quads. Okay, if you have any comments, questions, suggestions, or otherwise, please let me know about the Cinelog 35. I think I may have said 25 earlier. V2. Please let me know in the comments section below. I appreciate your time. And thanks for watching.